Oh, no.
Yeah.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I would never have done this in BFA.
No, no chance.
Like, it's so far away from BFA, it's unfucking real. Ladies and gentlemen, me and Mr. Finn are back because it's decision time. We need to choose a main. Now, I know many of you responded was like, can you go through all the classes? Yeah, sure. We're going to go through all the classes in a different video, not today. But this is going to be us choosing our mains, what we decided to drop. We got it down to 4, Finn?
Yes.
Yeah, we were down to 4. We've been doing a lot of playtesting over the last couple of weeks. I don't know how you went about your testing, but for me, I played the specs I was more worried about. Like, I played a lot of Frost DK, because it's my least favoured. Not that I dislike it. Not Frost DK, they're fucking terrible. But it was my least favoured of the specs. So if I do end up picking, say, DK, and I end up as Frost, am I okay with that? That was how my approach has been. What's your approach been?
Pretty similar. I think the only one that really applied for me for that was Rogue, though, because it's the only one that has multiple DPS specs. The other ones are all, like, flex or have healers. So that was kind of easy. The stuff that I did for Paladin and Monk was more around sort of bad talent builds, or like the ones that are less enjoyable, and the Legos that are perhaps less enjoyable, just in case their like numbers are a little bit higher. Just playing around with them a little bit just to see if it took anything away from the class.
Yeah, for sure. You've got to be, certainly in, it won't affect everybody this way, obviously, but in our position, performance matters a great deal. So you do have to be prepared that once you choose a main character, there's a chance that because what we don't choose is like Fury Warrior, Arms Warrior. You're a Warrior. Or you're a DK. So that could, if you're DPS, that could be Unholy or Frost. It could be Breath of Syndragosa Frost. It could be Two-Handed Obliterate Frost. It could be anything along those lines. And you need to be prepared that once you commit to your main, there's a chance you might end up pushed, certainly when your performance does matter, into specific specs, or which I actually prefer, Finn, I don't know about you, with the Rogue, we'll get to it I suppose, is you play both, depending on the scenario. Like, one's just much better for certain types of encounters. Yep. So you need to be prepared to play Unholy, and then switch over to Frost for a different fight, depending on what's needed. I don't know if, did you feel that way about the Rogue? Or do you prefer it, I should say?
I think that it's true. I'm not sure if I prefer it, if I'm honest. I think sub is so insanely fun that ideally being able to play sub on every fight would be awesome, and it seems kind of like you could right now.
Yeah.
Unless there's like a meme AoE fight where Outlaw would probably be better, right? But there doesn't seem to be one that's just a meme AoE fight, really, apart from Kilthas, like a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you'd have to play it on one fight, so it's not that big a deal. Even if you don't like it, it's only one fight, who cares? So, so yeah, as long as it's not the last one, it's all good, you know?
I giggled there because that's exactly what we've been reading so heavily about the Covenant abilities, is that, like you just said there, yeah, it's one fight. Like, why do I care about playing Outlaw for one fight out of the raid? But it's exactly what we've read from a lot of people. The Covenant abilities is like, I do not want to have to change what I prefer at any point. And it's such a different mentality, is that I'm a sub-rogue, this is what I play. And it's like, okay, but can you play Outlaw for just one fight? There's literally one fight. No. Okay, I guess. But, you know, from our perspective, that's not even a consideration. It's like, yeah, of course. Like, if it's significantly more beneficial for me to do that, yeah, I'm going to do that, and then go back to sub for the next fight. Like, easy as that. I have dropped Feral.
No.
I did drop Feral, and the reason I dropped Feral is a few reasons actually. One, they nerfed Convoke the Spirits, so it's actually a massive nerf to Convoke the Spirits, and it was the only fun Covenant ability for Druids, as far as I'm concerned. The Necrolord one I really, really dislike, which is the Adaptive Swarm. You just kind of fire it out and forget it exists, and then you fire it out again. It's just a button that has a cooldown. The Kyrian one is garbage, and at least it's not garbage. It's actually very effective and very strong. It might actually become the primary one now, but it's somewhat reliant in some cases on other people's performance, which I can manage, but it's just irritating. I don't want it to be that way. And the Venthia Ravenous Frenzy is just another buff on top of just pressing like Celestial Alignment or Incarnation. And it was like, it might as well not exist. And certainly the mobility isn't needed on a Druid. Particularly, like, it's nice to have Soul Shape, it's nice to have Venthir Teleport, but it's not a big deal for Druids. and neither is Fleshcraft is obviously turd for the kind of content we do. And on top of that, I mean, Swole Boy, bleed guy, sure.
Yeah.
Not particularly interested in having an angelic transmog for my thing that turns into a cat. So based on that, none of the Covenants appealed to me. None of the new spells appealed to me in terms of effectiveness or usage. So I was like, okay, well, that kind of sucks now. I even had my Convoke only give me 3 combo points now, which really disrupted the flow of the gameplay that I enjoyed with Convoke the Spirits when I was playing Feral. Now it sometimes gives 5, sometimes it gives 3. It's just like, ugh. It really messes up what you're trying to do and just feels bad. So that was one of the reasons. The other reason is I can certainly see me being asked to play balance on some fights. Right. I really, really dislike balance. Like, heavily, strongly dislike balance. And that was definitely an off-put, and it didn't bring any utility beyond stampeding raw, which is effective for sure, but it's also made up in a number of different ways. So it was kind of like taking a raid spot. I'm enjoying the gameplay, even though my gameplay is a little disrupted now because of the Covenant change, and then it comes with all these negative effects on the side. So based on that, I was like, I could foresee a lot of stuff happening that'll really put me off it, even though it's still really, really fun. I know I'm going to end up not enjoying my Covenant at all in any of them. I genuinely mean that right now. It's like none of the Covenants appeal to me at all in any way. So I'm not gaining anything new from like a BFA Feral Druid. So with all that combined, I was like, yeah. It's not because of raid spots particularly. It was more a case of it just felt less enjoyable the more less realistic as a raid choice, I should say. Not less enjoyable, but just less realistic as something I wanted to play for a raid tier. So Feral is gone for me, unfortunately.
That is unfortunate, yeah. I was looking forward to the Mike Feral dream. Yeah, there's one that's dropped for me. Shadow Priest is gone.
Oh, no!
Yeah.
The Fingal is... that was the primary Fingal.
Yeah.
Is it... Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah, Fingal Dingle's dead. So I think the main thing was I wanted to go melee. I wanted to change it up a little bit. This was obviously the curveball that was like, maybe I might need to play ranged. And if I do, I'd prefer it to be Shadow. I don't think I'm going to have to, so it's pretty much gone. There's a few things about the spec that I don't particularly like. I think the base spec itself is awesome after the rework. It's probably the best base spec in Shadowlands, actually. I think 100%. I don't think it's comparable, to be honest. I think it's just it functions amazingly well. The talents are really good. Yeah, there's a ton of different builds you can do for different scenarios. It's a fun base spec, but none of the other stuff is fun. So the legendaries are rubbish. They're not interesting at all. And the conduits are like a bit meh. They're going to scale like crazy, but they don't change your gameplay in any way whatsoever. Not that they do for many other classes either, but you combo that with the Covenant abilities being pretty universally bad for Shadow. At least if they function numbers wise, they're not enjoyable to press. They're definitely fun as like a Disc Priest, but they're very rarely fun as a Shadow Priest. So yeah, Covenant ability is not good, Legendary is not good. Like similar to Feral, pretty much. It would be like playing a reworked Shadow Priest, but without all the fun stuff from the new expansion, because you don't really get any. So
that is, it's quite sad that it's kind of come out that way. But there's so many. I think we should also point out here. I think this is probably important. We probably should have said this at the beginning. Is that Shadowlands is so easy, at least it seems that way, to maintain alts compared to BFA. That's highly likely we'll be playing a lot more characters than what we're talking about here. These are our main raid-focused characters. But I know, at least for me, I'm very much in the mindset that I can play all of these at some point. Like, that's not an issue for me.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But it's in terms of whether these are going to be main characters. I can see myself in BFA playing everything, like, without issue, which is something I've wanted to do for quite some time. But right now, that's not the case. So the Shadow Priest is gone. So you are committed 100% to melee this time around. Now,
I am, yeah.
I have to bring up because people are going to be wondering about this. We keep being told, and I have no goddamn idea where this information is coming from, that the raid is melee unfriendly, and I have no clue where that's coming from because it's not. And I find that really strange. What are your thoughts on that, Finn?
I think it's definitely better for melee than previous tiers, for sure.
Yeah.
I think in general raids are kind of melee unfriendly, because
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Like, there's a general favoritism towards range. There always is. But what do you consider melee unfriendly? Because I guess that's where the turning point is, right? That's where the opinion comes from, is what do you really consider melee unfriendly? Like, for me, storming, the new affix, that's unfriendly.
Yeah.
Because you literally can't attack, and you're just being hammered for damage. So the healer is having to keep you alive, and you can't even attack or do damage. Like, that's melee unfriendly. But having stuff that you kind of have to move out from on, like, one boss and things like that, that's not melee unfriendly. Why am I saying unfriendly?
Unfriendly.
Unfriendly, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. That's not a melee unfriendly scenario at all.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And there's definitely some fights that are worse for melee than others. Like, I play some melee on the Zoth right now, and switching to my Hunter is just, the fight is infinitely easier, right? Because you're in range of the boss the whole time, you don't have to run out for stuff. So yeah, that's kind of, it's inconvenient. I don't think it's necessarily unfriendly. And I think there's tons of mechanics in this raid that are sort of equally unfriendly to range as well. So yeah, I'm pretty confident melee will be fine. I don't think you'll bring 10 of them. I don't think it's going to be like a switch round, right? But I think you'll definitely have maybe 1 or 2 more melee spots.
I wouldn't expect that either, though, right? I wouldn't. There's got to be a ranged lean just through the nature of encounters.
Yeah.
And obviously, some ranged are very, very strong. It used to be the case that melee were like. I know there's a belief out there that melee should do significantly more damage than ranged to account for the less of them, but that's not going to work either. Like, that would end really, really badly, pretty quickly, if it was to go down that road. But it's, in terms of it being like, you wouldn't, I consider melee unfriendly, to be, you wouldn't want melee in this fight. Yeah. That's what I consider melee unfriendly. Why would we bring melee here? And I've not seen a single fight that's been like that, like, at all. And that's something I was just surprised how many people were telling me, hey, this is melee unfriendly. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like, I'm not, at least it's not for me.
Yeah. I've not seen it as much as people have called out, really. But
no. I find it a little bit strange. So the Shadow Priest is gone.
Yes, it is.
I'm really torn on this, and I think Shadow Priest is gone for me as well. And it came down to something we talked about, actually, in a TDP a couple of days back, where we were talking about what does it actually bring. Like, the purpose of our main characters is to be, or at least we try to choose something strong and relevant, because, you know, we do Mythic Raid, it's kind of important to us that we do that right. So we do want to pick a class that's useful, it's bringing the utilities based on what we've seen in the raid, and it's going to carry that over. So I probably wasn't going to choose Shadow Priest as main, but because it's easily, I could pick something else that does the same better and brings more, right? I could pick a Warlock and do better, a Mage would probably be better, a Hunter would be better. And then it comes down to being main alt. And I was thinking, I think I said this during the TDP, it's like, what would if I couldn't come on Hunter for some reason, would the next choice be a Shadow Priest? Like, is there any scenario you could think of, Finn, and maybe I'm thinking about this wrong, is there any scenario where you're going to say, right, we don't want your Hunter here, we want your Shadow Priest?
I mean,
can you think of any scenario that would happen?
Maybe really, really split cleave. But even then, new Shadow Priest isn't that great at that. So, yeah, probably not. There's probably not a scenario right now for that.
I can't think of one at all where it's like, yeah, we're going to do this. Can you log your Shadow instead of your Hunter? And I'm like, why? Like, that was my mindset on it, is like, I just can't see that happening. In which case, and then it's more of a logical approach, right? Because I love the gameplay of the Shadow Priest, obviously. But it then becomes more of a logical approach, which is then, why do we have it then? What am I gearing this for? Am I gearing this... Because it also means getting renown, it means getting all that kind of stuff. Am I gearing this for a situation that would never occur? And therefore, why would I do that?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
True.
And that's my thought process on it, is like, if I'm choosing a main alt, I probably don't want it to be a Shadow Priest, because I can't think of a single scenario where we'd be like, oh, Mike, we need the priest, not the hunter. I'm like, no. Now, if I choose DK as main, which is my other choice, if I choose the Death Knight, I could see us saying, okay, we're dropping a melee to bring another ranged. Would we prefer to bring Hunter or a Shadow Priest in that scenario? And I think the likelihood is there is Hunter. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or am I talking out my ass?
No, I think it does. I think it makes sense.
Yeah. So I think on that bit, and nothing. And I want to be clear: there's nothing here that's about any negative towards the Shadow Priest. Like, I love playing the Shadow Priest, and I'm definitely going to level it, cap it. I mean, it's potential I'll just have 3 characters. I mean, I have no issue doing that either, with the way things are right now. I have no issue having 3 characters prepared. But for right now, I just don't see the Priest fitting into the mold of something that I should prepare and work on in my free time. In preparation for raiding. I just don't see it. So that is the basis for that one, team. Yeah. How about yourself?
Well, the other one too, it's not been cut. This is the thing. It's a fairly similar scenario in that I'm probably going to do 3 characters. Probably. But
isn't that nice?
Yeah.
I would never have done this in BFA.
No, no chance.
Like, it's so far away from BFA, it's unfucking real. Like, doing 2 characters was
painful.
So bad.
Yeah.
Najata twice.
Yeah, I was considering multi-boxing until we got to test endgame, and I was like, that's fine, actually, don't need it.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I'll probably do 3 characters. If I can only do 2, then I'll be dropping the monk.
Interesting.
Because I think it's the one that almost exactly the same to what you just said about Shadow Priest. If I was to main Paladin, for instance, would we ever swap out a Paladin for a monk?
For a rep for a Windwalker,
Yeah.
you mean? Is there any scenario you drop a rep for a Windwalker? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think Paladin just brings so much more right now with all the bops and the freedoms.
The opposite way, I can see.
Yeah.
I could see, like, Windwalker for ret, I could see that, because you're like, we need more bops. Right? I could see that. Even if it was a case of we could do with, like, let's say we get another fight like the Frost guy in Nighthold, where it's like, okay, we need 6 healers here, we would rather have another AM. You know what I mean? Like, even if you were to come in as Holy, for example, I could see that scenario.
Yep.
I can't see any scenario where you drop a rep Paladin for a Windwalker.
Yeah.
They just don't bring anything, right? That's the thing. They're just not bringing anything.
Not really. Unless if there's some last minute rework, I'm all in, because I love the spec.
Oh, for sure.
It's so fun. It's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to main it. But I just think it doesn't bring enough at the moment, which is kind of a shame.
It brings the debuff, but we're back to this kind of BFA and Legion scenario, is Brewmaster just doesn't die. And therefore the debuff isn't worth anything for Mistweaver or to Windwalker. That's the problem you've got there as well. Is it's just not bringing. It's not bringing it.
It's just not bringing enough. So, and then the rogue was the other option, and the rogue is just, it's always going to be decent. So it's a good backup. It's potentially a good main if sub is good, because if sub is good, that spec is hilarious fun. So yeah, I think both of them are really solid, and they bring a lot of utility as well. They both bring in immunity too, which is awesome. So
immunity is just so strong, man.
Yeah, so I think they're 2 pretty solid classes, and if I have time to do a third, which I think I will, to be honest, then the third will be Windwalker for sure.
Yeah, you're pretty confident in that, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got 2 down each. Which does leave us with our two potentials, and obviously the next thing we say is going to confirm the main. DK, so for me it's DK or Hunter, and for you it's Ret or Rogue.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what's insane, Finn? The people who've been following me for years now will be like, okay, you hate pet classes, which I do.
Yeah.
And your preferred two specs for this expansion are Hunter and DK. How did we get here? And it comes down to more than I don't like pet classes. It comes down to so much more than that. It's just that, yeah, Unholy is my favorite DK spec. It's just so fun to play that it overrides that dislike of the pet source, you know? I mean, I played Mage with a pet. I don't like pet classes. I still mained Mage for Entirety of Legion. I've mained DK before, so it's different priorities. I don't hate pets so much that I would refuse to play the class, let's put it that way. And with the Hunter, I went back and I watched, Finn, my old WOD videos, where all I'm talking about is, like, be the volunteer, find ways of being part of the team as much as you humanly can. And then I realized that the entirety of my time playing Druid, I've been unable to do that, and I had forgotten how much I loved it. And the Hunter does that in spades. And it's like, I want it back.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to be super logical about this, as much as it's going to annoy people, I think. But I'm going to be super logical about this, and I'm going to say DK main alt.
Yep.
And my logic there is I can see us dropping a Hunter in the current raid for another AMZ.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can absolutely see that. And in alt raiding that we do, we schedule alt raiding, it's part of what we do. I can see us having a DK with another AMZ as being a good thing.
Yeah.
And having that prepared. And plus I'll enjoy myself alt raiding. Which has been something I've really disliked in BFA. As you well know, I have not had a... Once we didn't need the alts for progress, I was out. I was so done. And did not do 8.3 on any of my alts whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think that's the right play. I really do. I think that's the right play. If I go Hunter main and main DK alts, I can see that being useful. It's less useful than something else I could pick, but I think that's right.
Yeah, I think those are...
Am I wrong?
I think those are good shouts. I think they're... Yeah, I think they're both pretty solid picks, and I think, yeah, Hunter main, DK main alt is, yeah, a pretty good round to go, I would imagine.
Oh god, I feel nervous. It's 2 months away, and I feel nervous, like genuinely, like, am I making the right choice here? Like, am I going to regret this? And I know people are going to go, you fucked up. You fucked up. And I'm like, maybe. I don't feel like I'm fucking up, though. This feels like it meets all of my requirements.
That's good.
I think. All right, how about yourself?
For me, yeah, it's probably going to be Paladin main and Rogue main alt.
Paladin main?
Yeah.
Over the Rogue?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
How do you come to it? Talk to me.
So, Ret is super fun. I really enjoy it. I know there's like tons of videos out there right now that are saying it's not very good, but it is really enjoyable to me, and it does big damage currently, although tuning to be decided.
Tuning's ongoing, for sure.
So yeah, I think it's really good to play. It brings a ton of utility to the raid, especially a raid that has tons of bleeds. Bop is like so useful. Being able to immune off some of the stuff, at least on the mid bosses, there was tons of immunity opportunities. There might be.
Hence the Hunter.
Yeah, there might be some towards the end of the Denathrius fight as well, by the looks of it. So that should be pretty fun. And yeah, I think it's actually like a decent melee slot right now, just because it gives some extra stuff. And if you don't bring a Paladin healer, which is possible, given it's not the powerhouse that it was towards the end of BFA.
It's not possible.
Yeah, it's probably not possible, right? But
you are not dropping Aura Mastery.
You don't drop Aura Mastery probably, but
no.
Ret does bring Dev Aura as well, which is kind of helpful. So yeah, there's some additional stuff it can bring. I really like how it plays. It feels like it has good burst AoE and good burst single target, and you can spec for them both at the same time, which is pretty much exactly what you need on last boss. And then like add an immunity and a bop and stuff in there as well. You're good. So yeah, Ret main, and then the Rogue ult. I really enjoy 2 of the specs, and it's a super safe pick, basically.
And it's something you can see them at. I can actually genuinely see dropping a Ret for a Rogue in some scenarios. Yeah. I can definitely see that. It'd be quite niche, unquestionably. It'd be quite niche, but there's definitely a scenario where you're like, we want some more cloaks. We definitely want to. We can have rogues do something wacky, because that's what rogues do, right? They bring in and they can do something really strange. We've seen it in the past where they're just so good at like self-sustain and also mobility, being able to shadow step to places that ordinary players can't get to, and they can do all that kind of stuff, which paladins can't. They do have mobility issues. What covenant? Oh, we didn't talk about this. What covenant for the Ret then?
Whichever one sims higher.
Spoken like a true hero. I agree. Same for Hunter.
Yeah. I don't know what to say. If I got the choice, I don't know. Necrolord's kind of fun. Kyrian's okay on multi-target, but yeah, ultimately I'm going to run a sim, and whatever the sim tells me, I will choose.
And then they're going to nerf it the following week.
Yeah,
then exactly what we've seen happen in the beta this week.
They'll nerf it
is when it's supposed to happen. I'm not complaining. It's supposed to happen in the beta. Yeah, I think you're right. Though. Scary, man. Do you not feel a little nervous when you make this choice? Because it's like, I don't know how you feel, but you're more prepared than I am. I think that's fair to say in terms of retail characters. Yeah. I get this sinking feeling now that, like, okay, I need to jump on retail ASAP and get this character fucking sorted. Like, there's just no way I can...
I definitely need to do that for the Rogue. My Rogue is like, I don't know, I think it's in BOD gear or something like that. So that needs some work for sure. My Paladin's ready. It's pretty much been ready for like a week or two. So that's pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. I feel pretty nervous about it as well. This is a big change for me. So I've pretty much played like a ranged dot class for like, I don't know, 8 years, something like that. So yeah,
it has been a while for you actually.
It's going to be a bit of a change up. So we'll see. I might be terrible at it. Who knows?
I mean, I doubt it. It's not like you're not like learning to poetry or something, right? It's World of Warcraft. We're gonna be okay. You know what I mean? We're gonna be all right. But yeah, you're not. Oh God. Would you be sad if it became a case of we want your rogue more than anything else?
If it was outlaw, probably. But the other what's your nightmare? Let's talk about that a little bit, because I think that's important. Like, what's your nightmare scenario that could happen with your choice? My nightmare scenario is that I have to play Kyrian outlaw rogue. That's pretty much the nightmare, I think, because outlaw is not that fun in general. It's like the worst of the 3 specs in my opinion by a substantial margin, and if the Kyrian ability ended up being the most powerful, that's super annoying to use. It's like, yeah, it's just frustrating. I find it more infuriating to use than, like, when I was successful with it, it was way less fun than it was infuriating when it wasn't successful. So
interesting.
So yeah, that would be proper nightmare, I think.
Yeah, mine is survival actually.
Yeah.
Like I still, even to this day, having play tested it, done videos on it. I've played it a hell of a lot. I still don't consider it a hunter spec.
It's really bad.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it is what it is, but I still cannot consider it like a hunter spec, and that's. I miss old survival so much that it actually just pisses me off the way it is now. It really does. Because it's fun. It's a fun spec. It just doesn't feel like a hunter spec. It doesn't feel like what I want when I choose a hunter. You know.
Yeah, agree.
And that's the problem with it. Is I would rather have the old spec back where it was explosive charges and it was it was just a different style of play. But that is my worst case scenario. Is that survival the way Blizzard works with their swinging of the pendulum with stuff is they just swing in and go, okay, survival got a 25% damage buff, and you're like, why? Why? What's the worst aspect of your choice in a Ret Paladin? That you know is a problem. Like the thing that does bug you about it right now.
Do you know? There's probably not much.
Which is why it's your main.
Yeah, which is why it's my main. I mean, the only thing. Oh God! I mean, the only thing that really bugs me about it right now is that there's a build with execution sentence that is really GCD specific. Like you have to play you have to play it perfectly within the 8-second window, which could be kind of annoying if you get a mechanic or something like that in the middle. But other than that, most of the builds are pretty forgiving. The way that it does DPS is kind of forgiving as well. It seems like a fairly solid pick. But yeah, there is one build that's like, yeah, you have an 8-second window to do almost all of your damage, and if you mess it up, it's going to feel real bad.
On the same sort of stamp for me, it's just the legendaries. Like, I'm really... the legendaries and the covenants are a problem for my hunter, because right now it's kind of leaning towards Necrolord, and I absolutely... It's so boring. Like, pressing that button has never felt good in my eyes. Mainly because we've had it before, right? Chakrams are nothing new. So we've kind of had this spell before. And the old one, I think, was more interesting. That you could... you had to, like, think about it a little bit. And the legendaries are so bad. Like, I don't understand what happened. Like, why the legendaries are so bad. And I'm really hoping, because it is the spec or the class that have the least fun gameplay-wise, that my biggest fear is that it's just like, it doesn't get any better. It's just boring for the whole expansion, in which case I'll be like, I shouldn't have gone this way. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it just never spices up. It doesn't get that moment of glory I'm always looking for. It just never gets it. It's just very much doing its job, which is fine. I mean, that's kind of what I'm signing up for, because the big gameplay element for me is the extra stuff I can do. So we get to the next raid, and it just doesn't have any of that, and I'm like, oh, God. There's no place for it to shine and do extra little bits. That would be a big problem. But hopefully that doesn't happen.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. Well, there you go, guys. The choices are locked in. We can let our guilds know, and we will come back and we'll talk through. Maybe give it another week or so, another round of testing. Our updates for the classes come on a Wednesday. Maybe next Wednesday when we get together, we kind of go through everything, and maybe get Mike in as well, because Nups has been doing a lot of the class testing as well with various ones, and have maybe a big debate on how the classes overall are looking. Maybe we can have a mess around with that. So, thank you very much for listening. Good luck choosing your mains, guys. It's not easy, is it? There's a lot to consider. There's a lot to consider. It's such a big choice, Finn. It feels so dumb. It's a game. But it is a big commitment.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It is. Be good, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.